Okay, so now you can see my screen. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the record rollover process. So every year at the end of the year, most of our clients they tend to like to roll over their records for the next school year. So normally the clients now with the feature of bulk data entry that can be done themselves, and I'll walk you through that process briefly when we get to the cloning area. Duplicate entries. A lot of the time I have users come to me and they say that they like to call it a blank entry, or I like to call it a blank entry, but normally what happens is somebody goes in and adds a new record for a student that already has a record, so um, they really have created a blank record or another record, and they think that they've lost the previous record when actually they've just created a new one. So it's blank and they think they've lost everything. So a lot of the times when I'm investigating, I find that they've run into adding it through the add student screen possibly, or maybe they went into the records option within the student record and they've clicked clone record. I'm not really sure, but my guess is they've done it through the add student screen. So I'll just show you with an example here. So I have a record. These are just sample students and sample schools that we have in front of us here. So right now Emily has a record for her IEP, and we're just going to make it this year's school year. So if I go back to the home screen, and let's say I'm a teacher or someone else that's looking for Emily's record, and they don't see them on the home screen, or they've switched to school or whatnot. Normally what happens is they go into the add student screen and they search for the student. And you'll notice on the add student screen, you'll see this little icon beside Emily's name. This icon actually indicates that she has a record already for this initiative, which is the individual education plan. So with that indication, you would just click on the student's name and that record will be coming up on the screen. So a lot of the times I think what people are doing are they're just adding a new one. So what they do, if I go back to the add student screen and search for Emily again, they click on this checkbox beside their name and they click the add button. So what that does is it actually creates a blank record for Emily, and they would click on Emily's name and she would have this blank record here, and they'd be like, oh no, I think I erased the record, when actually they just created a new one. So if you do come across this, what you can do is you can go into the student's record like we are now, and you'll notice along the top there's a menu bar up here. We have home, print, records, initiatives, help, and integration. If you go under records and go to the record history screen, you'll notice that Emily has quite a few records under here. So there's actually 4. And if I click on the most recent one that has the date created of today's date, this is the blank one that I just added. So if I go back to the records history screen, if I go down to the second one and click on it, it's actually the one that they were looking for. So it was the one where they have all the information that they're looking for, or they're working on before. So right now the issue is when they click on the student's name from the home screen, the blank one is the first record that pops up because it was the most recent record created. So in order to get rid of that, what we would have to do is we'd have to delete this blank record. So in order to delete the blank record, you'll see we have a red X here, which is delete, and then we have an edit pencil, and then we have an edit record history. So what we would do is we'd click on the red X to delete that blank record, and we get a confirmation and we click OK. So then what that would do is it would get rid of the blank record, and now our most recent record would be the one that has all our information. So just to confirm, I'm going to go back to the home screen, and click back on Emily again, and there we go. So we have the most recent record. So a lot of the times that's what's happening is users are adding by clicking that checkbox beside the name. Now we have implemented a fix for that issue, and it's going to be in our next release, which is actually going to our live site tonight. And we'll be having a webinar later on to go through some of those release items and those fixes, but that'll be at another time. So the next one is new entries. So I just kind of showed you a new entry. You can also do a new entry from the student's record itself. So right now we're on Emily's record, and I can create a new record by going to the records drop-down and clicking the new record. So that actually creates a new or blank record. And that could also be the area where users are making a mistake and they're creating that blank record. So cloning. So cloning a record actually means what it's self-explanatory. You're actually creating a duplicate record of what you have currently. So I'm just going to get rid of this blank one here. And we're going to go back to the one that has all the information in it. So if I go to the records menu again and I click clone record, it's going to refresh your screen and you're going to see the exact same copy of this IEP in front of us. So I'm just going to click it, and there we go. So the screen just refreshed. So this is an exact clone of the record that we had in front of us before. So a lot of the times clients use this for when they do different semesters. So as you can see, this template actually has a semester drop down. So let's say the previous record that we had on the screen was for term or semester 1, and so I want to clone that one and have it for semester 2, and now I have this exact copy one and I can go in and make updates in other areas. So a lot of our clients like to do that. And they also manage them in their records history screen. So for example, I can change the name of this first copy of Emily's IEP that we had by going to the Edit Record History screen. And this allows us to change the description of the IEP record. It also allows us to lock it, which means that it locks the record and puts it into a read-only status. So, you know, I could change this to be 2014 2015 IEP for, let's say, term 1. So I can put in term 1, and I can lock it if I want to, so nobody can make updates for it. So then you hit save, changes are saved, okay. So now when you click on it, you'll notice that none of these fields I can click on and change because they're all locked. So a lot of our clients like to manage their records that way with cloning it during each semester, or they just keep the same record for the whole year and then they roll it over at the end of the year. So that leads me into my next step, which is the bulk data cloning record rollover. So you don't have to clone them every single one, you can do it all at once. So how we get to there is we go to the menu along the top and we go to bulk and then bulk data entry. So under bulk data entry we would select our initiative. So I just have 2 sample IEPs in this test sandbox account that I have just for this webinar. And then I'll select my students. So if I want to select all the students to roll them over, I can even search by the school year. So let's say, you know, I want last year's students, and they would come up on the screen. But I'm not going to apply a filter just for this example. But that's normally what we do, is we filter by the school year that we're currently on, and then we go next. So on this next screen, this is where we would actually roll over, so to say, and you're actually creating a new clone of the current records. So you can see under bulk data entry options, we actually have three options. So we can bulk create new records, we can bulk update their current records, and the last option is record rollover. So that's the one that we would select. And you can put in a record description. So let's say it's 2015, 2016's IEPs for next year. You could put in term 1 if you want to, or semester 1, or whatever you would like to name the record. And then there are fields that you could update as well. So let's say I want to update to next year's school year, term 1. If you already know that the placement date is going to be the same for each of those students. So these are the students that's records are going to be rolled over. You can see them in the far left-hand column here. So I'm just going to update these two fields. So this is going to be an exact copy of last year's IEPs, but these two fields that I selected will change, and those will be the only ones that will change. All the rest of it will be the same. So then what I'll do is I'll click update, and it's going to just go through the process, and then it'll give me a confirmation that the records have been updated. So next, so record history was actually next, and I've actually gone over active and locked records and descriptions, so I'll just briefly walk through it again. So you can access the menu when you're in a student's record. You can't actually access it from the home screen, but you can access it within a student's record. So again, it's along the top, and we have new record, clone record, and record history. So we go into record history, and any of these records here, you can change the description, you can change the status of them. So again, you just click on the little, looks like a little notepad with a pencil to change the record history. So you can change it from active to locked. You can change the description. You can access each record by either clicking on the description name or clicking on the pencil. And then again, you can delete a record, like a blank record. Okay, so next is bulk data entry. So we just briefly went over that. So accessing the menu, you can access it from the home screen under bulk, so bulk data entry. And in the add student screen, the bulk process actually comes up when you're adding multiple students. So I'll just briefly go over that. If you're in our add student webinar, you've seen this before. So I can add multiple students at once. So actually, I'm going to go by grade. So let's just say I want to add a bunch of grade 11s, and it shows me a whole bunch of grade 11s here. So if I want to add a whole bunch of grade 11s to the IEP all at once, I select them with the checkbox, and I click Add. So it's going to give me a pop-up message that says, would you like to enter data for these students through bulk data entry? So for this example, I'm going to say OK or yes. And what that does is it takes me to the bulk data entry screen like we saw before with the record rollover. So this is actually creating new IPs for these students and their blank IEPs. So I can actually update fields again like I did before, the school year, the semester, if I know the reporting dates. I'll just fill in a couple here. And then I'm going to put in a description if I want. So 2015, 2016 IEP. And then I'm going to do an update. So it's going to update those records. And if we go back to the home screen, and I believe one of them was Bella. So yeah, you can see that it's updated the school year and the term and semester, and it's updated the dates that I have pre-applied through bulk data entry. So it would have done that to each of the students that we selected from the add student screen. Okay, so I've gone over the topics that were in our lesson plan.